The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the arid plains of Arizona. Dust swirled in the wind, carried by an invisible force that seemed to whisper secrets from another time. Somewhere out there, amidst the desolation and untamed wilderness, a story was waiting to unfold, a tale as wild and unyielding as the land itself. In a small town called Red Gulch, where the streets were lined with wooden buildings and the air smelled faintly of leather and gunpowder, something unusual had happened. A girl, no older than 16, was chained to a fence post outside the saloon. Her wrists bore the marks of iron shackles, her clothes torn and dirty, her face streaked with tears and dust. She didn't cry anymore. Instead, she stared at the horizon with eyes hardened by despair. The townsfolk gathered around her like vultures circling carrion, muttering amongst themselves, their curiosity mingling with judgment. "Who is she?" one man asked, squinting into the distance. "No one knows," replied another, spitting tobacco juice onto the parched earth. "She just showed up yesterday morning, tied to that post." Little did they know, this girl's presence would soon unravel mysteries buried deep within the soul of Red Gulch. But for now, all they saw was a frail figure bound by chains, defying the heat and the flies buzzing incessantly around her head, until the Mustang came. The Mustang appeared suddenly, galloping down the dusty road leading into town. It was a magnificent creature, its coat a fiery chestnut color flecked with sweat and dirt. Its mane flowed wildly in the wind, and its eyes held a fierce intelligence that made even the boldest cowboys step back in awe. No one dared approach it. It moved too fast, too unpredictably, as if it belonged not to this world but to some ancient spirit of the plains. It stopped near the edge of the crowd, snorting loudly, pawing at the ground with hooves that kicked up clouds of dust. People scattered, shouting warnings to each other, but the girl on the fence post remained still. Her gaze locked onto the horse, and for the first time since anyone could remember, a flicker of emotion crossed her face. Hope, perhaps, or recognition. But then, something unexpected happened. The Mustang stepped closer, lowering its head until its muzzle was inches away from the girl's shackled wrist. There was a moment of tense silence, during which everyone held their breath, waiting for what might come next. Then, with surprising gentleness, the horse nuzzled against her hand before biting to the chain binding her to the post. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Some people backed away in fear, while others leaned forward, unable to believe what they'd witnessed. The girl rubbed her sore wrists, staring at the horse with gratitude so profound it brought tears to her eyes. For the first time in days, she spoke, her voice soft yet steady. "You saved me," she murmured, reaching out to stroke the horse's neck. "Why?" No answer came. Of course, not from the horse, anyway. But the question lingered in the air, unanswered yet undeniable. Who was this girl? And why had the Mustang chosen her? Days turned into weeks, and the girl stayed in Red Gulch, though not as a prisoner anymore. She worked odd jobs around the town, earning enough money to buy food and shelter. The townsfolk grew fond of her despite knowing little about her past. They called her Lily, though whether that was her real name or simply a nickname given by the locals, none could say for sure. Lily spent most of her time caring for the Mustang, whom she named Spirit. Together, they became a familiar sight in the town square. A young woman brushing the coat of a wild horse, both of them looking more free than any human or animal ever should. Yet beneath the surface, there was a tension, an unease that hinted at secrets yet to be revealed. One evening, under a sky painted with hues of orange and pink, Lily sat alone on the banks of the river that ran through the outskirts of town. Spirit grazed nearby, his ears twitching occasionally as he listened to the sounds of the night. The water rippled gently, reflecting the stars above, and Lily found herself lost in thought. "I wish I knew who I am," she whispered, clutching her knees to her chest. "I wish I could remember." Her memories were fragmented, disjointed images floating in her mind like shards of broken glass. She remembered riding through the desert, pursued by men whose faces blurred together in her recollection. She remembered falling off her horse, landing hard on the rocky ground. And she remembered waking up in Red Gulch, bound to that fence post, with no idea how she'd gotten there. But then, there was another memory, one so vivid it haunted her dreams. She saw herself standing in front of a cabin deep in the woods, holding a lantern in trembling hands. Behind her loomed a shadowy figure, its presence menacing yet oddly familiar. What did it mean? Why couldn't she piece it together? As if sensing her distress, Spirit approached, nudging her shoulder with his nose. Lily smiled weakly, patting aside. "You're my only friend," she said softly. "Without you, I don't think I'd have survived." The truth began to surface one stormy night, when lightning illuminated the darkness and thunder rolled like cannon fire over the hills. Lily and Spirit sought refuge in an abandoned barn on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where cobwebs hung thick and the scent of mildew clung to every surface. As the rain hammered against the roof, Lily noticed something strange, a box hidden beneath a pile of hay. Curiosity got the better of her, and she reached for it, brushing away the debris to reveal its contents. Inside lay letters, photographs, and other personal belongings, all belonging to someone named Clara Bennett. Among the items was a locket containing a picture of a young couple, their smiles frozen forever in time. On the back of the locket was engraved a single word: remember. Lily felt her heart race as she examined the artifacts. Everything about them felt eerily familiar, as though they belonged to her own life rather than someone else's. Could Clara Bennett be connected to her somehow? Or was this merely a coincidence, a cruel trick played by fate? Determined to find answers, Lily returned to the cabin she'd seen in her dreams, the very same cabin depicted in one of the photographs. It stood isolated in the forest, surrounded by towering pines and shrouded in mist. The door creaked open when she pushed it, revealing a dimly lit interior filled with furniture draped in sheets. On the wall hung a portrait of Clara Bennett, identical to the woman in the photograph. Below it rested a journal, its pages yellowed with age. Lily hesitated only briefly before opening it, eager to uncover whatever secrets it might hold. What she read shocked her to her core. Clara Bennett hadn't been an ordinary woman. She'd been part of a secret society dedicated to protecting sacred artifacts believed to possess mystical powers. One such artifact, a crystal pendant capable of controlling animals, had fallen into wrong hands, prompting Clara to embark on a dangerous mission to retrieve it. Unfortunately, her journey ended tragically when she was betrayed by those she trusted most. And here was the twist. Lily wasn't just a random girl found chained to a fence post. She was Clara Bennett's daughter, raised in secrecy to protect her from the same forces that had killed her mother. The pendant had been passed down to her, hidden within the locket, waiting for the day when she would discover its true purpose. Now, everything made sense: the visions, the connection to Spirit, the feeling of being pursued. Someone wanted the pendant, and they wouldn't stop until they had it. But Lily wasn't afraid anymore. Armed with knowledge and determination, she vowed to honor her mother's legacy by keeping the artifact safe. Months later, Lily rode Spirit across the open plains, heading toward destinations unknown. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying whispers of freedom and adventure. Behind her, Red Gulch faded into the distance, a reminder of the life she'd left behind. Ahead lay new challenges, new dangers, but also new opportunities. Little did she know, however, that her journey was far from over. The forces seeking the pendant were closing in, their plans growing more sinister with each passing day. And somewhere out there, among the endless expanse of the Wild West, another mystery awaited, a mystery that would test her courage, her wits, and her resolve. Until then, she rode on, a lone figure silhouetted against the setting sun, accompanied only by the loyal Mustang who had once bitten through her shackles. Their bond was unbreakable, their destiny intertwined. Together, they faced whatever lay ahead, ready to embrace the unknown with open hearts and unwavering spirits. The days stretched into weeks, and Lily grew stronger with every mile she rode. Spirit, her steadfast companion, seemed to sense the weight of their mission, his steps steady and sure as they traversed the unforgiving terrain of the Wild West. The land around them was a mosaic of contrasts. Barren deserts gave way to lush valleys, rocky cliffs loomed over winding rivers, and dense forests whispered secrets in the night. Each new landscape brought its own challenges, testing Lily's resolve and sharpening her instincts. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold. Lily spotted a figure on horseback in the distance. At first, she thought it might be a traveler, another soul wandering the vast expanse of the frontier. But as they drew closer, her heart began to race. There was something familiar about the silhouette, something that stirred memories buried deep within her mind. "Who are you?" Lily called out, her voice cutting through the stillness of the evening air. Her hand instinctively moved to the revolver holster at her side, a gift from one of the townsfolk back in Red Gulch who had believed in her ability to protect herself. The rider slowed their horse, raising a gloved hand in a gesture of peace. "Easy now," came the reply, a voice both smooth and commanding. "I mean no harm." Lily narrowed her eyes, studying the stranger closely. They wore a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed their face, but there was a glint in their eyes that spoke of experience and perhaps even danger. "That depends," she said cautiously, her grip tightening on the revolver. "What do you want?" The rider chuckled softly, dismounting from their horse with practiced ease. "You, my dear, have something I need," they said, taking a step forward. "And I'm willing to make it worth your while to part with it." Lily's mind raced. How did this person know about the pendant? Was she being followed? And more importantly, could she trust them? "I don't know what you're talking about," she lied, though her voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. The rider tilted their head, as if weighing her words. "Don't play games with me, girl," they said, their tone shifting from friendly to stern. "I know about the pendant. I know about your mother. And I know that you've been running ever since you found out the truth." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. This person knew too much. She took a step back, placing herself between Spirit and the stranger. "Even if I did have it," she said, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside her, "why should I give it to you?" The rider hesitated, then reached into their coat, pulling out a small, folded piece of paper. "Because I can help you understand its power," they said, holding it out for her to see. "Your mother left behind more than just the pendant. She left instructions, and I have them." Lily stared at the paper, her mind torn between suspicion and curiosity. Could this person truly be trusted? Or were they just another pawn in the game of betrayal that had cost her mother her life? As the moon rose high in the sky, casting an ethereal glow of the surrounding landscape, Lily sat by a small campfire, the stranger now revealed as a man named Marcus Calloway. He had introduced himself after handing over the paper, explaining that he had once worked alongside Clara Bennett in the secret society. When Clara had vanished, Marcus had spent years searching for her, only to discover her fate. And now, her daughter's existence. "You're not alone in this fight," Marcus said, his voice low and earnest as he passed a folded paper to her. "Your mother fought hard to keep the pendant safe. It's our duty to ensure it doesn't fall into wrong hands." Lily unfolded the paper carefully, her breath catching as she read the delicate handwriting scrawled across it. It was indeed her mother's script, filled with cryptic phrases and diagrams that hinted at the pendant's true potential. "She wanted me to use it," Lily murmured, her fingers tracing the lines of text. "But how?" Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious. "That's where I come in," he said. "Together, we can unlock its secrets. But we must move quickly. Others are after it. Powerful people who won't hesitate to destroy anyone standing in their way." Lily looked up at him, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. "Then let's go," she said firmly. "We'll find out what this thing can do before they catch us." Marcus nodded, a flicker of approval crossing his face. "Good," he said, rising to his feet. "But remember this. Trust no one. Not even me. If things get dangerous, run. Run as fast as you can, and don't look back." Lily didn't respond immediately, instead focusing on the fire crackling between them. Trust was a fragile thing, especially in a world where betrayal lurked around every corner. Yet, for the moment, she chose to believe Marcus. After all, he had proven himself knowledgeable and resourceful, and most importantly, he shared her goal. Their journey took them deeper into the heart of the wilderness, far from the prying eyes of civilization. Along the way, Lily learned more about the pendant's history. According to Marcus, it had been crafted centuries ago by an ancient tribe believed to possess supernatural abilities. The crystal itself was said to amplify emotions, turning love into loyalty and hatred into destruction. In the wrong hands, it could unleash chaos upon the world. "We need to find someone who understands these kind of artifacts," Marcus explained one afternoon as they paused near a clear, babbling brook. "Someone wise enough to guide us without succumbing to the pendant's influence." "And who would that be?" Lily asked, dipping her hands into the cool water. "A hermit," Marcus replied with a wry smile. "An old friend of mine. Lives in the mountains, away from everything. If anyone knows how to control the pendant, it's him." The prospect of meeting such a person intrigued Lily, but also filled her with apprehension. What if the hermit refused to help? What if he, too, sought the pendant for himself? Still, she pushed aside her doubts, focusing instead on the task at hand. Days turned into nights, and nights into dawn. The higher they climbed into mountains, the thinner the air became, and the colder the wind bit against their skin. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a secluded cabin nestled among towering pines. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, indicating that someone was home. Before either of them could knock, the door creaked open, revealing a wiry old man with piercing blue eyes and a beard that flowed like silver snow. "Ah," he said, his voice gravelly yet kind. "I was wondering when you'd show up." "How did you know we were coming?" Marcus asked, clearly surprised. The hermit smirked. "Let's just say I have ways of keeping track of certain items." His gaze shifted to Lily, lingering on the locket hanging around her neck. "And certain people." Lily swallowed hard, feeling exposed under scrutiny. "Can you help us?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "With the pendant?" The hermit studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Perhaps," he said, "but first, you must prove yourself worthy. Only those pure of heart can wield its power without losing themselves to it." Thus began a series of trials designed to test Lily's courage, wisdom, and compassion. She faced fears both real and imagined, confronting shadows of her past and embracing the light of her future. Through it all, Spirit remained by her side, his presence a constant reminder of the bond they shared. When the final trial ended, the hermit approached her, his expression unreadable. "You've shown great strength," he said, placing a gnarled hand on her shoulder. "But remember this. Power is a double-edged sword. Use it wisely or it will consume you." Lily nodded, clutching the pendant tightly in her fist. "Thank you," she said simply, her gratitude genuine. As they descended the mountain, the world seemed brighter, somehow renewed. Lily felt a shift within herself, a newfound confidence born from overcoming adversity. Yet, she knew the battle was far from over. Forces beyond her comprehension were closing in, determined to claim the pendant for their own nefarious purposes. And so, with Marcus beside her and Spirit beneath her, Lily rode forth into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. For in the Wild West, survival wasn't just about strength. It was about resilience, adaptability, and above all, the unyielding spirit to keep moving forward. Until the very end, the trail ahead was anything but forgiving. As Lily, Marcus, and Spirit descended from the mountains, the landscape shifted once more. Rolling hills gave way to dense forests, their towering pines whispering secrets in the wind. Shadows danced across the ground, cast by the fading light of dusk, and eerie stillness settled over the woods. It was as though the very forest itself held its breath, waiting for what would come next. Lily's senses were on high alert. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves made her hand instinctively drift toward the revolver at her hip. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes tracked their every move through the underbrush. Yet, despite the creeping unease, she pressed onward, driven by a determination that had only grown stronger since her encounter with the hermit. Marcus rode beside her, his face set in grim lines. He, too, seemed aware of the growing tension in the air. "We're getting close," he muttered, glancing around cautiously. "They'll be waiting." "Who?" Lily asked, though she already knew the answer. "The people after the pendant. The ones who had killed her mother and now hunted her down like prey. Whoever they were relentless, and their reach extended farther than either of them had anticipated. The Order of the Black Spur, Marcus replied, confirming her suspicions. A group of mercenaries and bounty hunters hired by someone higher up the chain. Someone powerful enough to want the pendant for themselves. Lily's jaw tightened. And you think they know where we are? They probably do, Marcus admitted reluctantly. Which is why we need to stay off the main trails. Stick to the back country. If we can lose them long enough to reach our destination, we might stand a chance. Our destination? Lily echoed, curiosity outweighing her fear for a moment. Marcus hesitated before answering. There's a place, a hidden sanctuary deep in these woods. It's where your mother used to go when she needed to hide something or someone important. If anyone has answers about the pendant's true purpose, it'll be there. Lily nodded slowly, processing this new information. A sanctuary sounded like salvation, but reaching it wouldn't be easy, not with the Order hot on their heels. Night fell swiftly, enveloping the forest in darkness, so thick it seemed almost tangible. They stopped briefly to rest, tethering Spirit near a small clearing illuminated faintly by moonlight filtering to the canopy above. The fire they built was tiny, barely more than a few glowing embers meant to provide warmth without drawing attention. Still, Lily couldn't help but feel exposed, as though the darkness itself was closing in around them. As she sat cross-legged near the flames, her fingers absently traced the outline of the locket hanging around her neck. Inside, the pendant pulsed faintly, its crystal catching the faint light and casting prismatic colors onto the ground. Lily stared at it, marveling at its beauty even as she feared its power. You shouldn't touch it too much, Marcus warned, his voice low so as not to disturb the quiet. It feeds off emotions. Too much contact, and it might start influencing you. How do you know all this? Lily asked, turning to him sharply. There was a part of her that wanted to trust him completely, but another part remained guarded, wary of revealing too much. Marcus sighed, leaning back against a tree trunk. Let's just say I've seen what happens when people let the pendant take control. Your mother tried to warn me once, but I didn't listen. By the time I realized my mistake, it was too late. Lily studied him carefully, searching for any sign of deception. His tone was sincere, his expression tinged with regret. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that perhaps he wasn't merely using her for his own gain. Maybe, just maybe, he genuinely wanted to help. Still, caution lingered in her mind. If you're telling me the truth, she said finally, then why didn't you tell me sooner? About the sanctuary, about the dangers of the pendant. Why wait until now? Marcus met her gaze steadily, unflinching. Because I needed to make sure you were ready, he said simply. Ready to face what's coming. Ready to carry the burden of the pendant without letting it destroy you. Lily looked away, unable to meet his eyes any longer. Part of her resented his secrecy, but another part understood the necessity of it. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't afford to falter. Not now, not ever. Dawn broke slowly, painting the forest in hues of gold and amber. With renewed resolve, Lily and Marcus resumed their journey, guiding Spirit along narrow paths that twisted and turned through the trees. The air grew cooler as they ventured deeper into the wilderness, and the sounds of wildlife became fewer and farther between. It was as though the forest itself was emptying out, leaving behind only silence and danger. Midway through the morning, they came upon a clearing unlike any other. At its center stood an ancient stone archway, moss-covered and weathered by time. Vines draped heavily from its edges, giving it the appearance of forgotten relic buried beneath centuries of neglect. Yet, there was something undeniably alive about it, as though it pulsed with energy invisible to the naked eye. This is it, Marcus murmured, reining in his horse. The entrance to the sanctuary. Lily dismounted, approaching the archway cautiously. Her hand hovered over the surface of the stone, hesitant to make contact. Is it safe? She asked, glancing back at Marcus. He shrugged. Safe enough, if you know what you're doing. But don't linger here too long. The Order could find us at any moment. Taking a deep breath, Lily stepped through the archway, her heart pounding with anticipation. On the other side, the world seemed to shift subtly, as though reality itself had been bent to accommodate some hidden dimension. Before her stretched a vast expanse of land, lush and green, dotted with flowers and small ponds reflecting the sky above. In the distance, a grand structure rose majestically, a temple carved from white marble, its columns adorned with intricate carvings depicting scenes of battle, triumph, and sacrifice. "It's beautiful," Lily whispered, all coloring her voice. "And dangerous," Marcus added grimly, following her through the archway. "Come on, we don't have much time." Together, they hurried toward the temple, Spirit trailing obediently behind them. As they approached, the doors creaked open of their own accord, revealing a dimly lit interior filled with rows of statues and tapestries depicting figures both human and mythical. At the far end of the room stood a pedestal, atop which rested a single object, a book bound in leather and inscribed with symbols that glowed faintly in the flickering torchlight. "That must be it," Lily said, pointing toward the book, the answers we're looking for. Before either of them could move closer, however, a low growl echoed through the chamber. From the shadows emerged a massive wolf-like creature, its fur matted with blood and dirt, its eyes blazing with hatred. It snarled viciously, baring razor-sharp teeth as it positioned itself protectively in front of the pedestal. "What is that?" Lily gasped, backing away instinctively. "A guardian," Marcus explained, his hand moving to the sword strapped to his belt, part of the sanctuary's defenses. "Looks like we're going to have to fight our way past it." Lily swallowed hard, her grip tightening on her revolver. This was no ordinary animal. It was a beast born of magic, bred to fend the secrets of the sanctuary, and it clearly saw them as intruders. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the temple, the creature charged forward. What followed was a fierce battle, one that tested Lily's skills and pushed her to her limits. Bullets ricocheted off armored hide, while Marcus's blade clashed against claws sharper than steel. Through sheer force of will and a little help from Spirit, who managed to distract the beast at a crucial moment, Lily finally landed a shot that struck true, felling the creature with a single blow. Panting heavily, she staggered toward the pedestal, her legs trembling beneath her. Reaching out, she opened the book, her eyes scanning the pages covered in strange writing and diagrams. Slowly, pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The pendant wasn't just a tool for controlling animals. It was a key, capable of unlocking portals to other realms filled with untold wonders and unimaginable horrors. And those seeking it weren't merely interested in power. They wanted access to these realms, hoping to harness their energies for their own purposes. But there was more, much more. Hidden within the text was a warning, written in Clara Bennett's own hand. Asterisk, do not underestimate the cost of wielding such power. To use the pendant is to risk losing yourself entirely. Asterisk. Lily closed the book, her hands shaking. She turned to Marcus, her expression grave. "We have to stop them," she said firmly, "no matter what it takes." Marcus nodded, his face set in determined lines. "Then let's get moving. Time's running out." And so, with the weight of the world resting squarely on her shoulders, Lily prepared herself for the final leg of her journey, a confrontation that would determine not only her fate, but the fate of everything she held dear. Until the very end, the air in the temple grew heavy, charged with energy that seemed to hum beneath Lily's skin. She stood before the pedestal, the ancient book clutched tightly in her hands, its secrets both a burden and a beacon. Marcus watched her closely, his expression unreadable, as if gauging whether she truly understood the magnitude of what lay ahead. "We can't go back now," Marcus said, his voice low but firm. "Once we step outside those doors, there's no turning back." Lily didn't respond immediately. Her mind raced, piecing together everything she'd learned from the book. The pendant's true purpose, the realms it could unlock, and the dire warnings etched into its pages. Each revelation brought clarity, yet also deepened the shadows looming over their path. "I know," she finally replied, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "And I'm ready." But was she? The question lingered unspoken between them, a silent acknowledgement of the uncertainty that clung to every decision they made. Still, there was no time for doubt, not when the Order of the Black Spur was closing in. As they emerged from the sanctuary, the world outside had changed. The once peaceful forest now felt tense, as though nature itself braced for conflict. Birds fell silent, and even the wind seemed hesitant, swirling aimlessly through the trees. Spirit pawed at the ground nervously, sensing the shift in atmosphere long before Lily fully comprehended it. "Look," Marcus whispered, pointing toward the horizon. In the distance, figures moved, dark shapes silhouetted against the fading light of day. They were too far away to make out clearly, but their numbers told a grim story. "They've found us," Lily murmured, her heart sinking. Panic threatened to rise, but she forced it down, focusing instead on the task at hand. "How many?" "Too many," Marcus admitted grimly. "We need to move quickly. If we can reach the old mining camp by nightfall, we might stand a chance." "The mining camp?" Lily asked, confusion knitting her brow. Marcus nodded. "It's abandoned now, but the tunnels beneath it offer plenty of hiding places. And traps, if we set them right. We'll have the advantage of familiarity, at least." Without another word, they mounted their horses and spurred them into motion, racing through the forest with the urgency of hunted prey. Behind them, the distant figures quickened their pace, closing the gap with alarming speed. It wouldn't be long before the chase turned into a confrontation. By the time they reached the outskirts of the mining camp, twilight had given way to darkness, cloaking the landscape in shadow. The ruins of the camp stood like skeletal remains, remnants of a forgotten era. Rusty tools lay scattered across the ground, half buried in dirt and leaves, while wooden structures leaned precariously, their walls cracked and weathered by time. Beneath their feet, the earth vibrated faintly, a reminder of the labyrinthine network of tunnels hidden below. "We don't have much time," Marcus said, dismounting and tying Spirit securely to a nearby post. "Let's set up some defenses while we still can." Together, they worked swiftly, gathering supplies and rigging makeshift traps throughout the camp. Broken planks of wood, tripwires fashioned from vines, and strategically placed boulders formed a web of obstacles designed to slow, or hopefully halt, their pursuers. With each passing moment, the sounds of approaching footsteps grew louder, more distinct. "They're here," Lily whispered, her breath catching as she spotted movement at the edge of the clearing. Marcus nodded, drawing his sword. "Stay behind me," he instructed, positioning himself between her and the advancing figures. "When I give the signal, use the pendant." Lily hesitated, her fingers tightening around the locket hanging from her neck. Using the pendant meant tapping into its power, risking the very thing her mother had warned against. But there was no other choice. Not tonight. The first wave of attackers emerged from the tree-line, clad in dark leather armor and wielding weapons that gleamed menacingly in the moonlight. Their leader, a tall man with piercing gray eyes and a scar running down the side of his face, stepped forward, his gaze locking onto Lily with predatory intensity. "So," he said, his voice carrying easily across the clearing, "this is the girl everyone's been talking about. Quite the reputation you've built for yourself." Lily remained silent, her hand instinctively moving to her revolver. Beside her, Marcus shifted slightly, preparing for battle. "Don't bother fighting," the leader continued, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "You're outnumbered, outmatched, and outgunned. Hand over the pendant, and we might let you live." "Not a chance," Marcus growled, raising his sword. The leader laughed, signaling his men to advance. Chaos erupted as the two sides clashed, steel meeting steel in cacophony of clangs and shouts. Lily fought alongside Marcus, her gunshots ringing out with deadly accuracy, but the sheer number of opponents began to overwhelm them. Then, amidst the chaos, something unexpected happened. One of the attackers stumbled into one of their traps, triggering a chain reaction that sent several others tumbling into pits or being struck by falling debris. The distraction gave Lily the opening she needed. Reaching for the pendant, she focused all her willpower on summoning its latent energy. A surge of warmth spread through her chest, followed by a rush of emotions so intense it nearly knocked her off her feet. Anger, fear, determination, all blended together, fueling the pendant's awakening. With a cry, Lily raised her hand, the crystal glowing brighter than ever before. Around her, the world seemed to pause, as though caught in a moment of suspended animation. Then, with a force that defied explanation, The attackers were thrown backward, their cries echoing through the night as they struggled to regain their footing. For a brief moment, silence reigned supreme. Lily panted heavily, her body trembling from the effort of wielding such immense power. Beside her, Marcus stared in awe, his sword lowered but his grip still firm. "You did it," he said softly, admiration evident in his tone. But the victory was short-lived. From the shadows, the leader emerged once more, his expression unreadable. "Impressive," he admitted, dusting himself off. "But not enough." Before either of them could react, he pulled a small device from his belt, pressing a button that emitted a high-pitched whine. Instantly, the pendant's glow dimmed, its power faltering under the influence of some unknown technology. "No!" Lily shouted, clutching the locket desperately. Without its strength, she was vulnerable, and so was Marcus. The leader advanced, his smile cold and calculating. "Game over," he declared, raising his weapon. But then, something extraordinary happened. From the darkness beyond the camp, a familiar figure appeared. Spirit, galloping full speed toward the enemy. His hooves thundered against the ground, his mane flowing wildly as he charged headlong into the fray. The leader barely had time to dodge before Spirit collided with him, sending him sprawling into the dirt. Seizing the opportunity, Lily and Marcus regrouped, using the chaos caused by Spirit's intervention to launch a final counterattack. Together, they fought with renewed vigor, their movements synchronized in a deadly dance of survival. One by one, the attackers fell until only the leader remained. Cornered and injured, he glared at Lily with venomous hatred. "This isn't over," he spat, struggling to rise. "You think you've won? You've barely scratched the surface." Lily ignored him, her focus shifting to the pendant. Its glow had returned, pulsing steadily as though reassured by her presence. Kneeling beside the leader, she held it up, letting its light illuminate his face. "It ends here," she said firmly, her voice devoid of malice but filled with resolve. With a single, decisive motion, she used the pendant's power to render him unconscious, ensuring he couldn't pose a threat for the time being. Exhausted but victorious, Lily collapsed on the ground, her breathing ragged. Marcus joined her, offering a rare smile of approval. "Not bad for your first real test," he said wryly. Lily managed a weak laugh, though her thoughts were already turning toward the future. The Order of the Black Spur may have been defeated, for now, but she knew this was far from the end. There were still realms to explore, mysteries to uncover, and battles to fight. Standing slowly, she looked out over the ruined mining camp, the stars above twinkling like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse of night. Whatever came next, she would face it head-on, armed with courage, determination, and the unyielding bond she shared with Spirit, until the very end.